Part 189. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei-Shi Niang. Chapter 1882. The police quickly discovered the scam of Ronghui Finance and the Procuratorate arrested 16 people. From the CEO, CFO, and CTO of Ronghui Finance to 2 vice presidents and financial personnel, a total of 11 people in the company were involved in the case. 5 more were outsiders. The self-proclaimed lawyer Chen's surname is Chen, but he is not a lawyer. Mr. Jiang's surname is Jiang, and he is not the CEO of any company. They all turned out to be fund brokers recruiting clients for Ronghui Finance. These people, seeing such a large amount of money coming in and out every day, felt like they were in a bank, and there were no stringent regulatory procedures and measures like a bank. They felt itchy, so they started to think wrongly, and later they conspired to do such a thing. A plan begins with internal and external cooperation and directly attacks investors' funds. The entire fraud process was exactly as Xiaofang had predicted. They first selected out-of-town customers who were relatively far away, and then created the illusion that the platform's capital chain was broken, causing customers to panic. At this time, the man named Chen began to enter. Directly contact the customers, use 30% of the funds to defraud their power of attorney, and then pay out the full amount of the investment. What they are doing can be said to be a capitalless business. Even the 30% of the money they call customers is borrowed from Ronghui Finance at first, but later they are no longer needed. To do this, the flow of funds is very fast. Quick. Within 10 minutes of calling over there, all the procedures will be completed here, and the full investment amount will be transferred into their own account. They used this method to defraud more than 900 customers from all over the country out of more than 80 million in investment funds in just over 3 months. The largest one was defrauded of more than 7 million. The strange thing is that when the police called to verify, the other party initially denied the incident, but later admitted it. The police found it strange. After checking the investor, they found that her husband was a deputy county official in a western province. The police were immediately alerted. The other party tried their best to deny the funds. There must be problems with the funds. They reported the situation to the local Commission for Discipline Inspection, and as a result, the local Commission for Discipline Inspection dug out a corrupt official. This can be regarded as an unexpected gain from this investigation. After the investigation of the case was completed, the police returned the losses of all investors based on the list. Xiaofang also received the more than 30,000 yuan, but she was not happy. Such a major case was solved, but there was no report in the media at all. In Xiaofang's view, this is one of the current chaos in internet finance, which should arouse vigilance. However, in the eyes of relevant people, this is just an example and cannot be used as an excuse. The exposure of individual cases affects the overall situation of mass entrepreneurship and innovation. Xiaofang's original intention of investigating this case in depth could be said to have come to nothing. Even such a shocking example did not attract the attention it deserved, which made Xiaofang feel deeply frustrated. She finally understood what it means to speak lightly. Xiaofang was a little frustrated. She withdrew all her funds from all platforms and decided to be a bystander from now on. There was no way she could be the child who exposed the emperor's new clothes. Even if she spoke, no one would listen. Instead, she would most likely become the child in Lu Xun's works who was beaten for telling the truth. People are having a wedding banquet with smiles on their faces, but you keep making noises like a crow. What's going on? After picking up the mood, it's time for Xiaofang to go to the United States. This time I went to the United States, which was very lively. I was no longer alone on the plane, spending more than 10 hours alone, and could only massage my swollen feet when I had nothing to do. This time, Xiaofang went to the United States with Lu Yun and Xiang Nan, as well as a dozen people from the Yongchengwu opera troupe. Lu Yun and Xiaofang made an exception and did not fly in first class. Instead, they squeezed into the back row of economy class with everyone. There were so many people laughing and joking. Time passed so quickly that even the night in the cabin didn't seem that late at all. When they arrived in New York, Zhang Xiangbei led his brothers and drove a total of 7 cars from New Haven to pick them up at JFK Airport. Zheng Xinyan also arrived in New Haven from Boston 1 day in advance, and then followed Zhang Xiangbei to New Haven. They came to New York together. Xiongnan hadn't seen Zheng Xingxin for 2 years. When they saw each other, they hugged each other and burst into tears. Ding Yusong saw it from the side and said to Zhang Xiangbei, "Come on, Zhang Xiangbei, let's hug each other too." Zhang Xiangbei said yes, opened his arms and hugged him. Ding Yusong saw them hugging each other and cried again, and asked, "Zhang Xiangbei, are we going to cry too?" Zhang Xiangbei laughed and said, "I can't cry, can you?" Ding Yusong shook his head and said, "Neither can I." "I can do it," Yin Tao said. "Zhang Xiangbei, let's hug." Zhang Xiangbei hugged Yin Tao generously. Yin Tao hugged Zhang Xiangbei and really burst into tears. Zhang Xiangbei was startled and shouted, "Yin Tao, you actors are so amazing, why do you come here so quickly?" Yin Tao said proudly, "Of course." Ding Yusong looked at her and cursed, "You are really not afraid of death or the boss beating you to death." Xiongnan heard this, waved his hands, and said in a crying tone, "Hug me, hug me. Cry, cry." After the two separated, Zhang Xiangbei was still surprised. He asked Yin Tao, "Yin Tao, how do you manage to cry whenever you want?" Yin Tao said, "It's not easy. I just cry when I think about my grandfather in the old society, who didn't have enough food and clothing, and was beaten by the landlord until his skin and flesh were bruised. I'll go." "Do you imagine me as a landlord?" Zhang Xiangbei asked. "How is it possible? If she imagines you as a landlord, she won't cry when she hugs you, but will bite you," Ding Yusong said. "She thinks of you as her grandfather." Everyone laughed. Xiaofang and Lu Yun stood aside and looked at them with smiles. After a while of excitement, Zhang Xiangbei walked up to the two of them and called Aunt Xiaofang and Godmother a little shyly, and the two responded with a smile. When Xiang Nan and Zhang Xiangbei came out of the exit, they didn't even have time to face each other until they all walked out together. A black classmate of Zhang Xiangbei, acting like a crazy person, was at the front writhing his buttocks, raising his hands in the air and snapping his fingers. When leading them to the parking lot, Zhang Xiangbei and Xiongnan coincidentally fell at the back. Xiongnan held Zhang Xiangbei's hand and asked him, "How are you?" "Okay," Zhang Xiangbei said. "What about you?" "Didn't you already see it?" Xiang Nan said, and Zhang Xiangbei smiled. Xiaofang turned her head and looked behind her. Xiongnan and Zhang Xiangbei quickly let go of their hands. Xiaofang smiled. Both Xiongnan and Zhang Xiangbei's faces were already red. At noon, Zhang Xiangbei ordered a meal at Huijin restaurant. Everyone rushed there. More than a dozen people from the theater troupe, plus Zhang Xiangbei's live brothers, almost caused a disturbance in Huijin restaurant. After all the other guests left, Xiongnan and the others couldn't resist the enthusiasm of Huijin and his wife, so they started singing on the spot. Huijin looked at Xiang Nan and said, "Why do you look so much like the same person? What is your relationship with the original white lady in your group?" Xiang Nan smiled and said to Huijin, "That's my mother." "No wonder," Huijin said, looking at her husband who kept laughing. Her husband also smiled and blushed a little. Lu Yun asked Huijin, "What are you laughing at?" Huijin pointed at her husband and Xiongnan and the others and said, "We, the little boys, were so obsessed with Mini Mom at that time that they could just take a sneak peek." Everyone laughed. Huijin was busy but very happy. She said to Xiaofang with emotion that after opening a store here, it has not been so lively for many years. "I still like to see how much like a family we Chinese people are when we are together." Not long after Zhang Xiangbei and the others arrived here, Xiaohu, Mang Chao, and the general manager of their foundation came over. Yin Tao, Zheng Xingxin, and Ding Yusong had not seen the licking dog for a long time. The last time they saw it, it was when they went to Taiwan to perform. Everyone was naturally excited again. They didn't disperse until after 3 o'clock after this meal. Everyone went to the hotel to stay. Zhang Xiangbei's classmates drove back to New Haven. They followed Zhang Xiangbei to help pick him up at the airport. It was fake, but it turned out that Xiang Nan was true. Zheng Xingxin had already told them how beautiful Zhang Xiangbei's girlfriend was. When they got there and saw it, it was true that they went back to Yale satisfied. Zheng Xinyan will stay in New York for one night and will return to Boston tomorrow. Zhang Xiangbei will always follow Xiangnan and the others. Zhang Xiangbei has obtained all the credits. Now he is waiting for the last item, the passing of the thesis. He can graduate and wait to attend the graduation ceremony. He is at school now and has nothing to do. Xiangnan and the others have a day off today and will start rehearsing tomorrow. They will perform officially the day after tomorrow. They will perform 2 performances in New York and then go to San Francisco for 2 performances. They will stay in the United States for a total of 9 days. Then they will fly directly from San Francisco to Japan. Zhang Xiangbei will follow them all the time. They, until from San Francisco, sent them away. Xiang Nan and the others slept in the hotel until about 6 o'clock in the evening. Lu Yun and Xiao Fang had already gone out to socialize. Xiaohu and Mang Chao drove 2 cars and a minibus to pick them up. Xiaohu was treating them to dinner. Eat at a Taiwanese restaurant on 5th Avenue. After dinner, Mang Chao and the general manager of their foundation took the rest of the group to go shopping on 5th Avenue. It was still the same as in Taipei. Xiaohu took Xiang Nan and Yin Tao Ding Yusong alone, which was different from in Taipei. What's more, today there are Zhang Xiangbei and Zheng Xingxin. Xiaohu asked them, "Do you dare to go to Brooklyn?" "If you don't dare, go ahead," Yin Tao shouted, and after she finished she asked, "Is there anything special about Brooklyn?" "There's nothing special," Zhang Xiangbei said. "It's just that there are more shootings, rapes, and robberies." When Yin Tao heard this, she retracted her neck. Xiaohu tempted her and said, "But it's really fun to play." Yin Tao stretched out her neck and said to Xiaohu, "Go, if someone comes to rob you, we will let them rob you and tell them that you open a bank. Thank you for the reward of 2 fishes. Thank you for your monthly votes from Wandering Mayfly, a dream I haven't awakened in 10 years, Sand Dust Mood, ZL59, Tianwei Y, Zongkai 727, and Book Friends 1607231109555485. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1883. Xiaohu and Zhang Xiangbei each drove a car. Ding Yusong and Yin Tao sat in Xiaohu's car. Xiangnan and Zheng Xingxin sat in Zhang Xiangbei's car. Xiaohu asked Zhang Xiangbei to follow his car. They turned right from 5th Avenue to East 65th Street, drove forward to 2nd Avenue, turned left onto East 62nd Street, and drove until they reached Roosevelt Road and turned left. On the right side of Roosevelt Road, there were buildings and buildings with different postures. On the left side of the park is a river with a long and narrow island in the middle. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan, who was sitting in the passenger seat, said this was Roosevelt Island. After walking forward for a while, Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan said, "Did you see the building on the right in front? This is the United Nations building." Xiang Nan lowered his head slightly and looked outside. Zheng Xingxin in the back row said, "So the United Nations building is here. I knew it was in Manhattan, but I don't know where it is yet." Zhang Xiangbei, "Are we going to cross the Brooklyn Bridge and leave Manhattan Island next?" Zhang Xiangbei was right, he crossed the Brooklyn Bridge in front and entered Brooklyn. Brooklyn is very big and has the largest population among the 5 major boroughs of New York. It was first an independent city, Brooklyn, and later merged with New York City. Earlier, Xiaohu asked them if they dared to go to Brooklyn. Zhang Xiangbei just know that he should take them to Brooklyn, to Grand Legion Square or the black area of East Flatbush. It wouldn't be near Sunset Park, Chinatown on 8th Avenue, or the residential areas of Italians and Jews, otherwise he wouldn't have asked them if they dared to go. These places are all areas with good security, and there is no question of whether they dare to go or not. They drove for nearly an hour and arrived at Flatbush Avenue. When they turned from the Jewish quarter into the Black quarter, they seemed to be in another world. Even the street lights on the roadside began to become sparse and dim. The streets outside the car on the street, almost all of the people coming and going were black people. The further we drove, the dimmer the lights became, and there were more graffiti on both sides of the street. There were also more people standing and doing nothing on the street, and there were more motorcycles. There were more and more cars driving on the street, old cars, and cars that were colorfully painted or decorated with strange-shaped objects. From time to time, cars passed them. When they passed them, several heads stuck out from the car windows and pointed at them, yelling strangely or making various gestures. "Are we going to take risks here?" Zhang Xingxin asked. "It's okay. This place is a little better than East Harlem, not so exaggerated," Zhang Xiangbei and Zhang Xingxin said. The houses on both sides of the street began to become low and dilapidated. This was about to enter the hinterland of the black area. The streets became darker, with street lamps, lamp poles, and lamp stands but no lights. After driving for a while, there was a light stand across the middle of the street, and the lights were on. But when they drove closer, Xiang Nan, who was sitting in the passenger seat, exclaimed, "Ah!" They saw that from the light stand, a dead cat was hung down with a rope. There was also a piece of cardboard hanging on the dead cat's body, with writing crookedly written on it. The cardboard was only about 1 meter away from the roof of their car. Zhang Xiangbei drove over without paying attention. He was curious and reversed the car again. He saw the words on the cardboard clearly and couldn't help laughing. "What are you writing about?" Even Zhang Xingxin didn't understand the meaning of the words on the cardboard. Zhang Xiangbei said to her, "This is a warning to villains who report to the police that they will end up like this cat." Come on, what a crappy New York, I don't think it's as good as Hangzhou." Xiang Nan cursed angrily, "Look here, it's not even as good as Yongcheng." Zhang Xiangbei and Zhang Xingxin both laughed, and Xiangnan asked, "Why are you laughing, aren't you?" "Yes, people from China will say this now," Zhang Xingxin said with a smile. "When we get to New York, we say that New York is not as good as Shanghai and Beijing. When we get to Chicago and Boston, we also say that it is not as good as Shanghai and Beijing. We Chinese, now it's awesome, but I feel weird." "What's weird?" Xiang Nan asked. "You say that a banker like Li Go, Mr. Politeness, is so familiar with the black area," Zhang Xingxin said. "Shouldn't he be very familiar with Long Island and Times Square?" "You can ask him yourself later," Zhang Xiangbei said, "but I am also very familiar with it. I am more familiar with East Harlem than Brooklyn. These places are the most exciting." "What are you doing here?" Xiang Nan asked. "I'm curious. They say these places in New York are very messy. When I have nothing to do, I come over to see how messy it is," Zhang Xiangbei said. "You're looking for death," Xiang Nan cursed. Zhang Xingxin chuckled, "Zhang Xiangbei, it's a good thing that you are graduating and going back soon. Otherwise, when Xiangnan returns from the United States this time, she will be worried to death every day, and she might wake up from her dream." Zhang Xingxin's words were a little sour, but Xiang Nan didn't say anything after hearing it. She thought it was true. It turned out that in Yongcheng, she imagined that Zhang Xiangbei in the United States should be in places with bright lights or antique buildings. If he had known that this guy would go to a place with a dead cat hanging on a light pole, he would have been worried to death if he had known that he would go to a campus with a green lawn. When Xiangnan was thinking this, she turned to look at Zhang Xiangbei, who was also looking at her. Their eyes met, and Zhang Xiangbei smiled. Look ahead, Zhang Xiangbei. You have to make eye contact. You guys will do the same later. Now look ahead and drive carefully. Otherwise, if a drunk man suddenly appears on the side of the road, you will be in trouble, Zhang Xingxin shouted from behind. Seeing that the street had reached its end and there were no houses on the roadside, Xiahua turned right when he reached the front, and Zhang Xiangbei followed suit. After turning around, the three people were surprised. They saw a large scrap car landfill in front of them, with a mountain of broken cars piled inside. In the open space in front, a circle of iodine tungsten lights shone brightly, lighting up the entire landfill. An open space was illuminated like daylight. There are many cars and motorcycles parked at the entrance. Beyond, there is a dense mass of people. There are always hundreds of people. Most of these people are mainly black young men and women, with a few white youths mixed in between. Men and women. At the end of the crowd was a stage with two large speakers erected on it, but otherwise it was empty. Xiahua stopped the car, and Zhang Xiangbei also stopped beside him. Everyone got out of the car and walked towards the front of the stage. Yin Tao asked Xiahua, "What are they doing here?" "Today's weekend is their hip-hop competition here," Xiahua said. Zhang Xingxin thought about the problem in the car. She asked Xiahua, "Liugu, how come you are so familiar with this place? You even know that they have a rap competition today." "We sponsored it," Xiahua said. "Not only their hip-hop competitions, but also their street basketball games are sponsored by us. There is a Taiwanese who works as a pastor in a church here. He found me and so we sponsored them. If we didn't sponsor them, they wouldn't even be able to pay the electricity bill." Zhang Xiangbei and Xiangnan explained that the United States is different from our country. In the United States, the construction of community facilities depends on the community's consumption tax. Poor communities like this do not have much tax revenue, so their roads and public facilities are becoming more and more dilapidated. It's a vicious cycle. The less money there is in a poor community, the more shabby it is, and the shabby it is, the less money there is. The first thing those who have a little money to do is to escape from this kind of community, Xiahua said. On the contrary, over here, in affluent areas like Long Island and Upper Manhattan, the communities are getting richer and richer, and the richer they are, the better their communities are built and the more they attract rich people. It's really evil capitalism, Ding Yusong said. Zhang Xiangbei smiled and said, "It's true. In the United States, if you take the wrong highway exit, you may be shocked. Maybe you will enter the third world." "Can this still happen?" Ding Yusong asked. "Yes, and the wealthy areas in the United States are different from those in our country. When developing real estate in China, we must emphasize the convenience of transportation. For example, subway housing is a selling point. But in the United States, the richer the area, the more convenient the transportation. It's underdeveloped, the subway is inaccessible, and even buses are inaccessible," Zhang Xiangbei said. "Why?" Zhang Xingxin asked. "Even I have been in the United States for such a long time and I don't know about this. I'm afraid that outsiders, especially the poor and homeless, will take public transportation and enter their communities. Anyway, they themselves drive luxury cars," Zhang Xiangbei said. "Come on, it's about to start, let's squeeze to the front," Xiahua said to them. The six of them pushed forward together, and the few Chinese were like rare animals in situations like this. "Look at those black youths," they were all yelling at them to get out of the way, as if they were deliberately pushing them to the front of the stage. Some people almost had their faces pressed against the faces of Xiangnan, Yin Tao, and Zhang Xingxin, whistling and blowing marijuana smoke in their faces. The three girls half closed their eyes, holding each other's hands. The one in front, Xiang Nan, held Zhang Xiangbei's hand. Zhang Xiangbei was tall and was leading the way. Although compared with those black people, he was not as tall as him. It was considered too high, but the words he spouted seemed to be very useful to these people. Yin Tao asked Zhang Xingxin, "What are Zhang Xiangbei talking nonsense? They are all swear words, very dirty," Zhang Xingxin said. "He probably learned them from the kitchen." Xiaohuo, who was walking at the back, laughed and said, "Zhang Xiangbei is a language genius." Yin Tao was surprised and asked, "He scolded them, but they still smiled at him and didn't beat him?" Xiaohuo said no, and he scolded them happily. "By the way, let me tell you, when you go to the black area, especially in the subway station, black people are very casual. People will often come to you and ask you for change or cigarettes. If you have it, give it to them. If you don't have it, just say no also. They especially like to talk to girls. If you don't want to talk to them, just ask them to go away. Remember, don't let them feel that you are afraid, otherwise, they will take advantage of you." Xiaohuo told them. Soon, they squeezed to the front of the stage. Several young men who had their arms lying on the stage actually stepped aside with a smile when they saw them, giving them the good seats in front of the stage. Ding Yusong felt strange. He asked Xiaohuo, "Do they know you? Do they know you are a sponsor? How is it possible? What kind of sponsor? We just give the pastor a sum of money every month and he pays the expenses." "Who would know me?" Xiaohuo said. "Then why did they let us?" Yin Tao asked. "I don't know either," Xiaohuo said. "Thank you, Jing Shen, for the reward at 3 o'clock in the middle of the night. Thank you to romantic Sakura Chin Fan Shu, Xiang J, Cai Yili, De Ji Lao, and book friend 201901180252243144 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1884. The background music on the stage started ringing, and the so-called competition officially started. This competition is free hip-hop, much like the arena of ancient Chinese martial arts competitions. Anyone can get on. There is no host or referee. How good or bad is your performance on the stage? Depending on the applause, boos, and cheers below. The one who stands on the stage till the end is the winner. When two people are singing on stage, one will cheer when he opens his voice, and the other will be booed when he opens his voice. If there are too many boos, you will be embarrassed to stay on the stage, and you can only walk off the stage in despair. The most important thing is that under everyone's booing, your brain will soon short-circuit, and you will suddenly be at a loss for words on stage, speechless, like an idiot. As long as there is such a brief pause, there is no doubt that you have lost. Get out. At this time, if you still want to stay on the stage, the people below will collectively boo and knock you off. The competition is about whose on-site reaction is quick, who is articulate, and also whether the content you sing can resonate with the audience and bring out the lowest things in the black ghetto. So swearing is indispensable, and it is even more indispensable to show off one's family history and suffering on stage. He is taking drugs, his brother is in jail, his sister is just a bitch who can be hummed by thousands of people, and his father was shot by a gangster and died suddenly in the hospital. On the streets, etc., it's just how miserable it is. This is a bit like a domestic talent show. The contestants talk on stage about how poor their families are and how difficult it is for them, in exchange for everyone's sympathy. However, here, the content is more naked, the language is more straightforward, and it is more sensational. There is also the option of scolding each other face to face. You can call them ugly, stupid, smelly niggas, or bastards who should have gone to hell long ago. You have scolded the other party's ancestors for 18 generations. It's best to be able to scold them. When the opponent is unable to resist and becomes frustrated, you win. Of course, everything must be expressed in the form of rap. If you are not capable enough, stutter, or are verbose on stage, the content is bland, the performance is boring, and there is nothing outstanding, he was immediately kicked off the stage. In rap, the rhythm and melody are basically the same. Many people have already prepared this part of the words, but what impresses the audience the most is whether you have a tone change in the middle. The content of this part is also whether the rhythm and melody are novel enough or not. If they are novel enough, they can bring you a lot of applause and cheers. Moreover, you have no way to prepare for this part in advance. You have to look at the different performances of your opponents and adapt accordingly on the stage. There are countless ways to win, it all depends on how you perform on stage. As long as you can resonate with the audience, win more applause and cheers, and make your opponents feel timid. The first person to take the stage was a thin and tall black young man. He looked as weak as a poisonous insect. His hair was standing on end and tied together. He stood there like a sharpened pencil. A lock of hair is the tip of the pen. He took a microphone from the microphone stand at the entrance to the stage and started jumping and singing on the stage. It was the first time for Xiang Nan and the others to see such a performance, and they found it very fresh. Although they could not understand what he was singing, they could still follow the rhythm immediately. Xiang Nan and Yin Tao followed his rhythm and kept nodding their heads. However, most of the audience in the audience are probably used to such performances, or they may have just begun and have not yet entered the state. Anyway, the excitement is yet to come. Most of the audience did not even turn their eyes to the stage, but were chatting with a group of people. The companions who got up were joking and laughing, and the voices of the audience almost drowned out the singing on the stage. Xiang Nan nodded and looked behind him. He felt a little sympathy for the singer on the stage. This was too embarrassing. He looked more like he was here to warm up before the official performance. When Xiang Nan and others perform, they often encounter such a situation. Before the opening, the audience is noisy. At this time, when you go on stage, your appearance is a skill. It depends on whether you can attract everyone's attention to the stage in an instant. Once you open your voice, it depends on whether you can win the applause of the whole room. If you cannot do this, the next performance will be difficult. You will not be able to control the entire theater at all, and the performance will basically be considered a failure. In some theater troupes, when the main actors do not have this ability, they have no choice but to let the clowns go to the front of the curtain to make everyone laugh before the curtain is even raised, or they can have the martial arts perform a series of somersaults to make everyone laugh. The eyes are attracted to the stage, this is the warm-up. Xiang Nan felt that this guy, even if he was just warming up, had already failed in his performance. This thin man was jumping and singing on the stage while watching the reaction off the stage. The expression on his face was a little stiff. Xiang Nan felt that he could hardly sing anymore. At this time, Slim Man also discovered that most of the audience in the audience regarded him as nothing. Only the two Asian girls in front of the stage kept nodding their heads and resonated with him. He moved towards this side and stood in front of Xiang Nan and Yin Tao. He bent down and kept singing and talking. He spoke too fast. With Xiang Nan's English proficiency, she couldn't hear a word clearly. Zheng Xingxin, he said, he is praising you very disgustingly. Xiang Nan and Yin Tao understood and waved to him. This time, he became energetic and the expression on his face became vivid. Immediately, there were boos not far away, probably because some people disliked him for being a flatterer and his singing was not greasy at all. A small young man, about 18 or 19 years old, walked onto the stage. The most eye-catching thing about him was that he had a gold tooth in his mouth. He took the microphone from the microphone stand at the stage, pointed at the thin man and started singing. Xiongnan and the others could not understand what he was singing, and they could tell that it was not a good thing. Zhang Xiangbei said, "The challenge has begun." Xiao the guy was scolding him. The thin man turned around, walked back to the middle of the stage, and stood face to face with the little man. The two began to sing verse by verse. The thin man still jumped up and down towards the little man, and he was singing. While doing this, the little man kept shaking his head and hands, making a contemptuous expression. When the thin man finished singing, the little man immediately continued singing. He held the microphone in his right hand and pointed at the thin man with his left hand. He flashed left and right, as if to prevent the thin man from jumping towards him at any time. When the little man sang, many people in the audience laughed. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiaohu also laughed. Ding Yusong couldn't understand, so he became anxious and shouted, "What is he singing?" Zhang Xiangbei, please translate it. It can't be translated, it's just funny. Zhang Xiangbei was overjoyed. It wouldn't be funny if it was translated, Xiaohu also said. Then, the winners and losers gradually began to appear on the stage. Every time the little man sang a verse, there were cheers and whistles below. When it was the thin man's turn, there were boos below. The boos became louder and louder, and finally they became a chorus and continued. After 7 or 8 minutes, the thin man finally couldn't hold it anymore. He walked to the edge of the stage, put the microphone back on the stand, and got off the stage. He lost. The little man didn't stop. He circled around the stage like a victorious boxer. The content of this rap was prepared by him in advance, and people below him cheered from time to time. Every time the little man turned to the front of the stage, he would point his finger provocatively at the audience, meaning come on, who of you dares to come up? That's awesome, Ding Yusong said. The crowd suddenly burst into cheers. To the south, they saw a tall, black man walking onto the stage. He looked like O'Neill playing basketball, and he was almost 2 meters tall. When he took the stage, he was wearing a gold reflective cloth cape in an exaggerated way, dressing himself up as a superstar. However, from the louder and louder cheers below, it can be seen that at least in this venue, he is really a star. When the little man saw him coming up, he walked closer and pushed his big belly with his hand. The strong man's belly pushed forward. The little man deliberately pretended to stumble back a few steps, and the audience burst into laughter. The strong man stretched out his hand and tore off the cloak, flicking it casually and throwing it to the corner of the stage. He was wearing a pair of big pants and a black vest, and his arms were covered with tattoos, which made him look darker, like a black iron tower. He stretched out his hand and waved to the little man, signaling him to start. The little man was still like that, facing the strong man, flashing left and right, pointing his left hand at the strong man and starting to sing. Zhang Xiangbei's translator said that he was mocking his appearance, calling him a big fool, and asking whether his mother was frightened when she gave birth to him. How could I have given birth to a pig? After the little man finished singing, he raised his right hand and shook the microphone vigorously, and a round of applause broke out from below. The strong man started, and his performance was very strange. He stood there, but kept falling backwards and forwards with his feet. He held the microphone in his right hand, and his left hand was close to his body. He only turned over when he reached his wrist. The index finger pointed at the other person, as if he did not dare to show off, and pointed at the other person quietly. When he opened his mouth, even Xiongnan and the others were startled. He spoke faster than a cross-stock actor, as if he was saying. A llama came from the south, carrying 5 kilograms of tama in his hand. A mute came from the north, with a trumpet strapped to his waist. The llama holding the tama from the south wanted to exchange the tama for the mute's trumpet from the north. The mute is unwilling to exchange the trumpet for the llama's tama, but the llama insists on changing the trumpet for the mute's trumpet. Zhang Xiangbei told Xiangnan and the others what he was really talking about. Zhang Xiangbei said that he used parallelism, saying that the guy opposite was a rat, bedbug, bat, fleas, flies, lice, roundworms, cockroaches, etc. Wait. The strong man spoke too quickly, and thunderous applause and cheers erupted from below. In this round, the little man lost, but he still refused to give up and continued to fight back. Some people in the audience gave him applause, and some also gave him he hissed. Immediately afterwards, the strong man began to fight back even more violently. Zhang Xiangbei told them, still using parallelism, he now said that the little man is Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, Pneumococcus, Bacillus anthracis, Bacillus diphtheria, Bacillus tetanus, gram-positive bacteria, gram-negative bacteria, suppuration sexual cocci, enterobacteria, vibrios, spirobacteria, helicobacteria, autotrophic bacteria, heterotrophic bacteria, saprotrophic bacteria, parasitic bacteria. Haha, it's amazing. There are also some bacteria. I don't know the translation. This fat guy is very cool, Zhang Xiangbei said with a smile. The little man started to fight back, still using his witty language, mocking the strong man, his parents and ancestors, but the audience seemed to be overwhelmed by this, and were more interested in seeing how the strong man would fight back. It was the strong man's turn. This time he said that the little man was just his meal and the fish on his plate. He then shot out the names of dozens of fish, ranging from freshwater fish to sea fish, like a machine gun. Everyone in the audience, the applause and cheers shook the mountain. The little man was still flashing left and right, hey. When he reached the edge of the stage, he suddenly did a backflip, threw the microphone in his hand on the stage, jumped off the stage and left. There were boos below. Thank you for the reward of 2 fishes. Thank you Pyo Xiaofan, Wahaji, Book Friends 201911021135467118, Book Friends 13021415330428, Book Friends 1607231109554855, So What, Lao Shenza Sang, Lin Bulet in Hungary, Book Friends 201912170332388847 for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1885. The little man ran away, but the strong man still moved his feet backwards and forwards quickly and moved to the front of the stage. He looked down, and his left arm that was close to his body suddenly opened up, and high-pitched and passionate singing spewed out of his mouth. Even Xiang Nan, Yin Tao and Ding Yusong couldn't understand what he was singing. I also know that this should be a song of a king. This black guy is crowning his victory. The crowd below was excited, cheering, and seemed to be shouting his name. Just like when he suddenly rose, his singing stopped abruptly, and he continued hey, moving in front of the stage, slightly bending his legs and arching his back, causing his own stature to drop a bit. At this time, he no longer moved his feet rapidly forward and backward, but moved left and right, with his feet moving to the rhythm of his own hey. From time to time, he would point his finger at the audience, and those people he pointed at would step back and shake their heads, while he smiled triumphantly. He moved from the other side of the stage to the side and saw Zhang Xiangbei and the other Chinese people standing in front of the stage. He pointed his finger at Zhang Xiangbei and they didn't put it down, and then began to curse in a rhythmic manner, saying hey from time to time while cursing. This kind of insult was provocation. He not only called them yellow-skinned dwarfs, the kid with the smell of milk would pop out his mouth and curse every Chinese name he could think of. From Qin Shi Huang to Bruce Lee, more than a dozen names were reported in one breath, and they were scolded one by one. Even Ho Chi Minh was scolded as a Chinese, and everyone present applauded and booed. Only then did Zhang Xiangbei and the others understand why the people in front were so hospitable and made way for him and even let them to the front of the stage. It was just to watch this good show. They must know that every time this strong man will find someone standing in front of the stage to humiliate him face to face. There are a few Chinese people here today. This is a very special occasion. It's not appropriate, so they will be sent to the front. The strong man pointed at Zhang Xiangbei and the others, and kept swearing at them in the form of rap, and kept waving at them, meaning that he wanted them to challenge him. Zhang Xiangbei was so angry that his teeth itched, and he said, "It's a humming pity I can't sing, otherwise I would have gone up there and taught this guy a lesson." "I'll come," Ding Yusong said. The others were stunned for a moment, and Yin Tao cursed, "What a fart with your duck voice." "I don't compete with his voice, I compete with his mouth speed," Ding Yusong said. Go up, take care of him," Zhang Xiangbei said to Xiahua. There were two people, one on each side, so that Ding Yusong didn't have to go up from the entrance to the stage. He was lifted to the stage from here. When the strong man saw Ding Yusong coming up, he deliberately pretended to be startled and took 2 steps back. There was a burst of laughter from below. When Ding Yusong stood up straight on the stage, the people below started laughing even louder. The little man in front, who is called a small man, is actually only small among black people. He is also about 1.7 meters tall, while Ding Yusong is only 1.63 meters tall. Standing next to the strong man, he looks like a child. The worst, what's more, he was wearing a pair of glasses, and the lights on the stage were too bright, making his face look blue. All of this makes Ding Yusong look pitiful and bullied. The two people faced each other, and the contrast was too great. The people below were almost laughing. The strong man also added fuel to the fire. He took a step back, put his right hand holding the microphone on his chest, and bowed deeply to Ding Yusong. There was a sharp whistle from the audience below. The strong man motioned for Ding Yusong to come first. Ding Yusong stood there and took a deep breath. Ding Yusong studied composition. During the time he was in the audience, he had already mastered the rhythm and melody of their rap. Hum your mother, hum your mother, hum, 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 hum your mother. Ding Yusong started singing, Zhang Xiangbei and the others laughed, and the other people in the audience were a little confused as they didn't know which language he was singing in. Although Ding Yusong's voice quality is not good, when he sings, his pitch is very accurate. Once the tone is accurate, it is not so unpleasant. In addition, he has figured out the rules and knows the reason why this guy is so popular. Isn't it just because he has a sharp tongue? All I need to do is sing faster than him. He is like a machine gun and I am like a handful of beans. Ding Yusong also has an advantage, that is, he sings in Chinese, and the audience below cannot understand a word of what he sings, so he does not need to worry about what he sings, whether the preface matches the afterword, and there is no need to think over it. On the contrary, this strong man sings in English. He not only has to sing fast, but also has to sing so that the people below can understand what he is singing. Ding Yusong could sing randomly, but he couldn't. As soon as the two of them started, he had already suffered a loss. Ding Yusong cursed out all the curse words that came into his mind. He randomly added 1 or 2 words after a curse word to make it rhyme. Zhang Xiangbei and the others couldn't hear what he was singing. Others in the audience felt that he sang very well and fluently, and didn't everything rhyme? Zhang Xiangbei and the others almost felt their stomachs hurt from laughing. They could only understand Ding Yusong's curse words, but they heard him talking in Shanghai dialect, Mandarin, and their Ningbo dialect. That strong man probably had never met him before, and there were others who were more fluent in speech than him, so he was a little confused. In the first round, when Ding Yusong sang, some people were booing him, but they were immediately stopped by the people on the side. Everyone couldn't understand what he was singing, but they tried hard to hear it clearly. When the strong man started singing when the news came, someone cheered, but the cheers were quieter than the ones that cheered Ding Yusong just now. Some people probably thought that this yellow man wearing glasses was more classy. Others have compared it, and Ding Yusong's rhythm is faster. In the second round, a strange situation occurred. When Ding Yusong sang, there was silence below. When the strong man sang, there was also silence below. Only the laughter of Zhang Xiangbei and the others were heard. Hovering over the head. Ding Yusong felt that it was almost done, so he suddenly started to change the key. After he started to change the key, the strong man could only follow suit. But at this time, the strong man was no match for Ding Yusong. Ding Yusong was the kind of person who could arrange music on the spot. He followed the strong man and changed his tune. After the strong man finished singing, he renovated his tune and came up with new ideas. He mixed in many Chinese and foreign musical elements, even elements of classical music. The strong man was a little dumbfounded. And the audience below, who had never seen such a fight before, found it very enjoyable. Later, they unanimously applauded Ding Yusong. Xiaohu and Zhang Xiangbei said, "I didn't expect Xiaoxi's eyes to be so powerful." Bian Xiangnan said, "Of course, I didn't study in Shanghai Conservatory of Music for nothing." Cherry said, "His sharp tongue came in handy today." The strong man, probably on this occasion, had never lost before. He was a little anxious. He felt like Ding Yusong was choking him no matter what move he made. It was indescribably uncomfortable. He stepped closer to Ding Yusong, as if he was dancing, but he deliberately bumped into Ding Yusong with his body. Ding Yusong could not withstand his collision. When the other party bumped into him, he staggered. But even so, his singing still continued. Finally, boos started, and they came from everywhere, getting louder and louder. The boos were for the strong man. After the strong man was booed, he became even more annoyed and pretended to beat Ding Yusong. "Look." Zhang Xiangbei put his hands on the edge of the stage and watched. As long as the strong man dared to make a move, he would jump on the stage. At this time, a girl came up from the stage. She got in between Ding Yusong and the strong man. She took the microphone from the strong man's hand and nudged the strong man with her butt. The strong man looked at her, retreated to the back of the stage. The girl took the place of the strong man and began to fight with Ding Yusong. When she opened her voice, even Xiang Nan and Yin Tao were startled. They thought her voice sounded a bit like Whitney Houston, and she was well trained. She and Ding Yusong played a game of transposition. If you transpose mine, I will transpose yours. The two of them were indifferent for a while. After 7 or 8 minutes, the girl knew Ding Yusong's weakness. In addition to rapping, she began to sing high notes with Ding Yusong. Ding Yusong was dumbfounded. How could he have such a voice? But if you don't know how to do it, then just give up and get out. A figure jumped from Zhang Xiangbei's side to the stage. Zhang Xiangbei looked closely and saw that it was Xiang Nan. Xiang Nan walked to Ding Yusong, took the microphone from his hand, and stood face to face with the girl. Ding Yusong retreated to the back of the stage. For the rap part, Xiang Nan learned from Ding Yusong and started singing randomly, as long as the rhythm was stuck. My eldest aunt, my second aunt are all my aunts, my eldest uncle and my second uncle are all my uncles. You are east and I am west, not east and west. He goes south, I go north and finally west. Xiang Nan sang like this. When it came to the part where she changed her tone, she suddenly stood up straight and started singing. Crossing the forest, crossing the snowy field, flying into the sky with anger. Her mouth was not opened very wide, but her throat was fully opened. She was singing in an opera style. Her voice was high and long, like cracked silk, like metal clanging. Everyone present, except Ding Yusong and Yin Tao, even used this method of vocalization. I have never seen it before, but now my eyes are opened. I feel that this sound is crushing over my head, and it can probably be heard in the whole Brooklyn. Everyone couldn't believe that such a powerful voice came from such a thin girl's body, and everyone couldn't help but cheer. That girl knew that she couldn't compete with Xiang Nan's high notes. She immediately started to dance on the stage. When she looked at Xiang Nan, she raised her feet and did a dozen flips in a row on the spot. Front flipping, the audience below became excited and cheered. She stood to the south, then did a dozen backflips on the same spot, and after standing still, she did 3 cartwheels in a row. When everyone saw her figure clearly, she was already standing on top of the big speaker. Then he flipped over with a backflip and stood firmly. There were thunderous cheers below, and the girl collapsed. Ding Yusong looked at the strong man proudly. The strong man became angry and punched Ding Yusong. Ding Yusong fell to the ground. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiahua were shocked. They both jumped onto the stage almost at the same time. When the strong man saw Zhang Xiangbei coming, he punched Zhang Xiangbei. Zhang Xiangbei turned sideways, and while avoiding the punch, his back was already he got close to the strong man and hit him in the lower abdomen with a sharp elbow. The strong man let out an ouch and stretched his feet to the north. With his right hand, the strong man fell to the ground. One of his companions rushed up from the entrance to the stage, but was knocked down by Xiaohu's punch. Several others also rushed up, and it was unclear what they were doing. The audience below also beat each other into a ball. There was chaos on and off the stage. Fortunately, at this time, the Taiwanese pastor had arrived and ran to the stage. Thank you Yuengzi, Wangju, Yuan Wang, HGX, Shachin Mood, Guzio Kaiokyu, no future, just remember the original intention for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Happy Saturday everyone. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1886. They laughed almost all the way from East Flatbush, Brooklyn, to Prince Street in Flushing, where there was a new Chinese-owned Do Lao Fang, and they came here for a late-night snack. After everyone sat down, they kept laughing. This group of young people traveled from Yongcheng to Hangzhou, Taipei, and then to New York. They did a lot of ridiculous things, but they all felt that tonight was the most exciting. Among the 6 people, the others were fine. Only one of Ding Yusong's eyes was black and blue, and there was a cut on his upper eyebrow bone. He had a band-aid on it. It was scratched by the broken glasses frame. It turned out that the pair of glasses he owned were completely scrapped, but fortunately he still had a spare pair in his bag. I forgot to ask that black man to pay for my glasses, Ding Yusong said. Then he will make you pay for it? If your glasses are broken, his hand must also be broken. Zheng Xingxin said, and everyone laughed again. It's a good thing you're not an actor, otherwise it would be nerve-wracking to put on makeup tomorrow, Yin Tao said, looking at Ding Yusong. By the way, I will definitely arrange for you to play a supporting role tomorrow. He Tong's little demon doesn't even need to put on makeup, Xiang Nan said. Yes, that's right, the panda monster, Yin Tao shouted. Everyone laughed again. The waiter stood beside them, waiting patiently. She saw these people were so happy. When they sat down, they just joked and didn't even order the food. She didn't know what they were happy about, and she didn't rush them. She stood there, smiling and patiently waiting. Ding Yusong turned to look at her and shouted, I'm hungry, order some food quickly, I want a big meal, lick the dog. When Ding Yusong said this, everyone suddenly felt hungry, very hungry. Zheng Xingxin and Yin Tao also shouted to order food. Xiahua brought them to this place. Xiahua called the waiter over and started ordering. He ordered 3 sashimi first, one was a platter of tuna and Arctic clams, one was French Perron copper oysters, and the other was a 5-grade Wagyu beef. Sashimi, the next step is to order the ingredients into the hot pot. Xiaohu ordered a 3-pound Boston lobster chopped into pieces, and 2 king crabs, also chopped into pieces. Zhang Xiangbei said, "No king crab, it's not even a crab." "Then what is it?" Zheng Xingxin asked. Zhang Xiangbei said, "Spiders in the sea." The waiter stood there chuckling, and Yin Tao asked her, "Is he lying to us?" The waiter said, "King crabs are not real crabs, but they are not spiders in the sea." "I don't know." The waiter originally wanted to tell them that if that was the case, Boston lobster was not a real lobster. It was a member of the crayfish family, which is the closest relative to the domestic crayfish. Moreover, Boston lobsters do not grow in Maine. It is only produced in Canada, so it should be called Maine shrimp or Canadian shrimp. After thinking about it, she didn't say that the waiter was a biology student at New York University and came here to work at night to earn living expenses. Xiaohu said, "Forget it, give us another one." In the end, he ordered bread crab, also chopped into pieces. I ordered another pound of live shrimp, a thick-cut snowflake beef, and the ribeye steak of a 5 Miyazaki Wagyu. I also had hot pot, and of course the tripe and goose intestines, plus a big table full of squid and vegetables. The hot pot here is a small pot for each person. While waiting for the ingredients to be served, the bottom of the pot in front of everyone is also boiling. After wandering around all night, everyone was really hungry. They didn't care about the appearance of the food and ate quickly. The thick-cut snowflake beef was delicious, so everyone grabbed it. One portion of the fat beef was quickly finished, and Xiaohu was after ordering one. Ding Yusong and Xiaohu said that the beef was delicious, much better than the beef from Sichuan Weiguan. Zhang Xiangbei and Xiaohu both laughed. Ding Yusong asked, "Why are you laughing?" "This is Wagyu beef," Zhang Xiangbei said. "What's wrong with Wagyu?" "Wagyu is not cattle," Ding Yusong said. "Wagyu beef comes from Japan, and its price is 6 to 7 times that of the Sichuan flavored beef you've eaten," Zhang Xiangbei said. "No wonder, then I want to eat more," Ding Yusong said. Zhang Xiangbei moved the sashimi beef in front of Ding Yusong and said to him, "Eat more raw beef, your eyes will be fine tomorrow." "What a loss," Yin Tao suddenly shouted, and everyone looked at her. "We should take a photo together on that stage," Yin Tao said. "Just be lucky that we even took a group photo," Zhang Xiangbei said. "If the priest hadn't come to the rescue and helped us escape from there, if it were a little later, those black people might have gone back to the car and got guns to attack." When Zhang Xiangbei said this, the 3 girls all said yeah and felt terrified. During the day, Lu Wenqin is very quiet, but as soon as it gets completely dark outside, she starts to cry, crying non-stop, and crying loudly. Lu Ligan could only take her with him, along with diapers and a bottle filled with milk powder, and go outside every night. While the escalator up and down the embankment was still open, he could go to the power generation workshop below. If there was anything in the vegetable garden outside, when the workers were working, he would take Lu Wenqin to watch them work. When the workers saw Lu Wenqin coming, they all called her a small landowner and said that a small landowner was here. Lu Ligan said, "Yes, you behave well. If any of you are lazy, we Wenqian will keep it in mind." When I took the elevator back to the embankment, it was less than 10 o'clock. I still couldn't go home at this time. If I went home, Lu Wenqin would still cry. As long as she left home and walked outside, she would become very quiet and have big eyes open, looking around. If she was crying, she must be hungry. As long as Lu Ligan found a place to soak the milk powder and gave it to her, she would stop crying immediately. If she still cried, it meant that she needed to change her diaper. Lu Ligan found a place to help her. After she changed, she stopped crying and continued to look around with her big eyes open. Back on the embankment, Lu Ligan wanted to take her and continue walking around the reservoir before going home. Although Lu Wenqin would still cry when he returned home, Lu Ligan did not dare to stay outside anymore. More than one of the workers below told him that children at such a young age are different from adults. They can see dirty things and cannot be outside in the middle of the night. The so-called dirty things are all kinds of ghosts, which means adults can't see ghosts in the middle of the night, but babies can. Of course Lou Ligon regarded these as jokes, but as more people talked about it, he began to mutter in his heart and was doubtful. He was not a baby, so how could he be sure that Lu Wenqian couldn't see it? It's better to be careful. After returning home, Lu Wenqian was still crying, so they thought of various ways to tease her, or go outside to the terrace. The lights on the terrace were so bright that ghosts didn't dare to come. However, Lu Ligon still closed all the windows. Qian scolded him, "You're crazy, the window is so comfortable with it open, why did you close it?" "Yes, the weather is getting warmer, and the glass shed on the terrace is covered by the green grape leaves. At this time, open the window and let the wind in. It is really a night intoxicated by the spring breeze." But Lu Ligon insisted on closing the window. Qian opened again. He didn't dare to tell Qian about this because he was afraid that ghosts would overhear him. When did he become so suspicious? Lu Ligon himself also found it funny. Thinking about it, he was not afraid of anything, but Lu Wenqian was not. Lu Ligon was very afraid of something bad happening. Really, it will happen to Lu Wenqian. Another effective way to prevent Lu Wenqian from crying is for Lu Ligon to take her hey hey hey. In this way, Lu Ligon takes her hey 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 every night, as many times as Wen. Qian couldn't laugh anymore when he saw Lu Ligon saying hey 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 again, but felt bored. "Here we go again, here we go again, oh, kill me." Qian hit her head on the sofa in despair. Wen and Lu Ligon said, "Did you let her sleep too much during the day? If she wakes up during the day, how can she sleep at night? Why don't she be a night owl?" Lu Ligon felt that what Wen said made sense. "Can you stop letting her sleep during the day?" Wen said. Lu Ligon said, "Yes, I will try tomorrow," but during the day, when he saw Lu Wenqian sleeping sweetly, how could Lu Ligon be willing to wake her up? "I wish she could sleep a little longer." During the day, Qian has to be busy taking orders from Dabao online, and Wen has to take care of the farmhouse affairs, and also has to take replenishment orders from major supermarkets in Guangzhou, and arrange them for workers to prepare so that they can be delivered in the middle of the night. Sometimes, she still has to follow him to Guangzhou. In this way, during the day, Lu Wenqian was carried by Lu Ligon. When the weather got hot, Lu Ligon felt that the electrician's bag was too stuffy and inconvenient. If he did not hold it with his hands from time to time, Lu Wenqian would be in danger of falling out of it. Lu Ligon thought of a way. He found a worker below. An old man in his family could do bamboo work. Lu Ligon drew a drawing and asked him to help make two things similar to backpacks. However, in the middle of the bottom, there was a horizontal rail made of bamboo strips. There were two round holes on both sides, which were empty. Lu Wenqian's feet it can be put down through the round hole, and she actually sits in the carrier. There are two straps on the backpack, and Lu Lepole carries the backpack on his chest. In this way, Lu Wenqian is comfortable and safe sitting in it. Lu Ligon carried her around every day, and she became a part of the scenery at Hongling farmhouse. Two female tourists stopped him and asked him, "Where did he buy this backpack? If you don't have it, buy it." "This is a special model for my daughter," Lu Ligon said proudly. One of them begged, "Can you sell this to me?" "No," Lu Ligon said, "the so-called special models are unique and cannot be bought no matter how much money you spend." The man curled his lips and walked away. Lu Ligon and Lu Wenqian said, "Wenqian, are you right? We Wenqian don't use the same thing as their little slugs, are you right?" Lu Wenqian was mumbling, and Lu Ligon knew that she must be laughing. Lu Wenqian was always very happy when Lu Ligon carried her on his back like this and chatted with her while walking. "Thank you for the fish in water symbiosis and the reward of two fishes, one up and one down." Thank you for your monthly votes from Waterfish Symbiosis, Nevin Moore, Lao Chen Tang, On the Road to a Nation, Book Friends 201910081504469959, Book Friends 2019111520421545, Bomb, Zixi Zi, Seeing No Future But Remembering the Original Intention, Cai Ili, Frivolous, Zipanjiang 1, Book Friends 201712072232111524. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1887. Do you think she cries so much because she doesn't feel safe? Was she scared because her mother threw her outside? Lu Ligan and Wen Wenqian said, her mother threw her away at night, so she do you cry at night? Lu Ligan and Wen Wenqian said that what he still dared not tell them was whether she really saw dirty things when Lu Wenqian was thrown at the door of the supermarket that night. Lu Wenqian's crying has become a scientific research issue worth studying between them. Whenever they have time, the three of them will discuss this issue. Go away, if this is the case, she should be more afraid of going out at night, Qian said. Why doesn't she cry as soon as she goes out? Lu Ligan was right to think about it, but he immediately thought about it again and said, I know, as long as someone is holding her, she feels safe, but if she is put down at night, she will feel that she has been abandoned again, so she has to cry and don't look at her. At such a young age, only children can be very sensitive. Wen thought for a while and said, what you said seems to make some sense. Qian also felt that Lu Ligan's words made sense, so she stopped talking. Although the three of them all thought that what Lu Ligan said was reasonable, Lu Wenqian still had no reason to say it. She still cried on her own. The three of them also had headaches. They didn't know how to make her feel safe. There is no other choice but to play with her in the middle of the night, or walk around on the terrace. After a while, Wen and Qian couldn't bear it anymore. It became Lu Ligan's task to take care of Lu Wenqian at night, including taking her to bed. He could only walk around on the terrace until Lu Wenqian finally got tired and fell asleep. When she was pregnant, he took her back and quietly put her on the bed. Seeing that her eyes were still closed, Lu Ligan let out a long breath. He went to the next room and climbed onto Wen and Qin's bed. Wen opened her eyes in a daze and asked him, what are you here for? It smells like milk, Qian muttered. Lu Ligan chuckled, I haven't had sex with a woman for a month. Wen and Qian stopped talking and asked him. Lu Ligan was about to show off his skills when the neighbor burst into tears. Qian kicked him with her feet and cursed. Go quickly, go quickly. If he didn't go, they would kick him out of bed. Lu Ligan ran back quickly, picked up Lu Wenqian, and walked around the room shaking, still crying. When he went to the living room outside, he still cried. It was not until Lu Ligan carried her to the terrace outside that he stopped crying. Lu Ligan looked at Lu Wenqian in his arms, dumbfounded, and asked, are you reincarnated as a homeless man? You must be happy in the open air. Or, I can move the bed outside and we can sleep on the terrace. Lu Wenqian looked at him and ate her fingers quietly. Lu Ligan's hand touched her diaper, which was bulging. Lu Ligan's heart moved. He carried Lu Wenqian back to the living room and put her on the sofa. Lu Wenqian's mouth was flat and she was about to cry. Her diaper was taken off and her face looked better. Just now, when Lu Ligan was holding her, he thought that every time he changed the diaper and took it off, Lu Wenqian seemed to be very quiet. Lu Ligan had an idea, was it because of the diaper? After Lu Lizan took off Lu Wenqian's diaper, he did not pick her up immediately. He still let her lie on the sofa. Lu Wenqin kept eating her fingers with her eyes open. Lu Ligan took a few steps back, and then a few more steps, but Lu Wenqin still didn't react. Haha, Lu Ligan was ecstatic. He picked up Lu Wenqin, went to his room, and put her on the bed. Lu Wenqin lay there quietly without crying. Lu Ligan picked up Lu Wenqin and went to Wenwen and Qinqin's room. He kicked Wenwen, walked over there, and kicked Qianqian again. Both of them were woken up by his kick. Opened his eyes drowsily. Found it, Lu Ligan shouted. Wenwen sat up and asked, "What did you find?" "Come on, make some space for Wenqian," Lu Ligan said. Wenwen moved her body and made a space between her and Qianqian. Lu Ligang bent down and put Lu Wenqin down. Qianqian opened her eyes. She saw Lu Wenqin lying next to her. Her eyes were wide open. She was startled and shouted, "Is she awake? Why isn't she crying?" Lu Ligan asked, "If you are asked to wear socks when sleeping, will you be able to sleep?" Qianqian shook her head. "You can't sleep even with a pair of socks on, and she's wearing a diaper like this. Aren't you sad?" "What should I do if I'm sad?" "I can only cry," Lu Ligan said. "She can't feel the distraction during the day. Pay attention at night. She felt it when I concentrated on it. She couldn't feel it when I held her and shook her while walking, but she felt it when I let her lie down." "Is it that simple?" Qianqian also sat up and asked. "Of course, children are so complicated. They cry when they are sad, cry when they are hungry, and laugh when they are happy. Children cannot pretend," Lu Ligan said. "Yes, when I think about it, her butt is a little red. Even though she applies talcum powder every day, she is still very sad, right?" Wenwen said. "At least it will itch, and I will cry when itches," Lu Ligan said. Okay, go away, the three of us are going to bed." Lu Ligan reached out to hug Lu Wenqin, but Qianqian talked to Lu Ligan and kicked him in the air to chase him away. Lu Ligan left Lu Wenqin with them, and he walked to the next door by himself. When he fell down, he thought to himself that he could finally have a good sleep today. Not long after Lu Ligan fell asleep, he heard Wenwen and Qianqian next door shouting, "Dad, Daddy." Then, he heard Lu Wenqin crying, "Wow." Lu Ligan quickly got out of bed and ran away. I went over and saw Wenwen and Qianqian standing there. Wenwen was holding Lu Wenqin in her arms, pointing to the bed and saying, "Look, look." Lu Ligan saw that their bed had been wet by Lu Wenqin. Lu Ligan laughed loudly, and Qianqian scolded, "You are still laughing, you harmful person." Lu Ligan continued to laugh, and he scolded Qianqian, "You are still being unreasonable. I was going to take her away earlier, but you told me to get out, saying that the three of you were going to sleep." Qianqian rolled her eyes at him. Wenwen handed Lu Wenqin to Lu Ligan and said to him, "Wenqin's body is also wet. Please change her. I want to change the sheets." Lu Ligan carried Lu Wenqin out, and Qianqian came out with Lu Wenqin's small clothes. The two of them were on the sofa, helping Lu Wenqin change her clothes. Lu Ligan said, "For you. Take it away, I don't want to sleep in urine," Qianqian shouted. "Are you stupid?" Lu Ligan said. "She has already pooped once, will she poop again? She has so much pee." Qianqian hesitated for a moment, but was still discouraged. She said, "I'd better take her to sleep with you." Lu Ligan carried Lu Wenqin back to his room. Although he had already explained the reason before, for safety reasons, he first laid a few plastic bags on the bed, then folded 3 folds of bath towels on top of the plastic bags, and pressed on top, and then put Lu Wenqin on top, then covered her with a quilt and slept. The night was peaceful, and even the dreams were sweet. The next morning, when Lu Ligan woke up, he saw that Lu Wenqin was no longer there. He was startled and quickly crawled to the bed to look. He thought Lu Wenqin had rolled under the bed. Checked to see if Lu Wenqin had rolled under the bed. Lu Ligan got out of bed, walked outside, and saw Wenwen breastfeeding her. Lu Ligan asked, "When did you abduct her?" "I also want to say that I slept like a dead pig, and the children didn't even know when they took her away." When Wenwen said this, she felt a little sorry for Lu Ligan. She knew that he had worked hard during this period and had finally managed to get a solid sleep last night, so he slept so deeply. Lu Ligan chuckled. After breakfast, Lu Li carried Lu Wenqin on his back and said he was leaving. Wenwen asked, "Are you taking her to town?" "Of course, it is her right to be vaccinated, and I will fight for it with her," Lu Ligan said. Lu Ligan went to town today to apply for Lu Wenqin's vaccination card. He heard that children without this card will not be able to go to school in the future if they are not vaccinated on time and as required. Lu Ligan went to the maternal and child health center in the town. The people at the health center told him that to apply for a vaccination card, he needed to bring the baby's household registration book, birth certificate, and the BCG and hepatitis B vaccines that were given at the birth hospital. Lu Wenqin doesn't have any of these things like vaccination cards. She doesn't even know where or when she was born. Where can she get a birth certificate? As for applying for a household registration, even though it was picked up, you still have to go to the Civil Affairs Department to go through the adoption procedures. There is no problem with these, whether it is the adoption procedures or the household registration. Lu Ligan believes that as long as he has connections, it can be done, but the problem is, time is not so fast, but children cannot wait for the vaccines they should receive. No matter what, Lu Ligan had to get the vaccination card first. He called the mayor the day before yesterday and told him the matter. The mayor told Lu Ligan that he would make an appointment with the director of the maternal and child health station. "Let's have lunch together today and ask Lu Ligan to come too." The maternal and child health care station in the town is a unit directly under the county maternal and child health care station. It is not under the jurisdiction of the town mayor. He has no way to give him orders directly. We can only work together with friends to find a workaround to get the vaccination card. Come out. Anyway, the national policy is that an infant cannot miss vaccination, isn't it? Lu Ligan took Lu Wenqin on the road. In the afternoon, when Lu Ligan came back with Lu Wenqin, Wenwen and Qian immediately gathered around him and asked him how he was doing. Lu Ligan pretended to be calm and said lightly, "It's nothing. Anyway, Lu Wenqin was given an injection and cried a lot. If I take her to get more injections, she will probably be afraid when she sees me in the future, and I won't kiss you anymore." As Lu Ligan spoke, he took out a dark green book from his bag. Wenwen and Qian screamed when they saw it. The cover of the book said Hunan Province Child Vaccination Certificate. "Look, do you see it? It's really true." Wenwen pointed to a line of small words under the Hunan Province Child Vaccination Certificate and said to them, "It's a must for kindergarten, daycare, and school. Without this, you can't even go to kindergarten, not just elementary school. You can't apply if you don't have a household registration." Lu Ligan said, "The next step is to apply for a household registration for her." Qian sighed and said, "I didn't expect that a child would have so many troubles. Fortunately, I didn't give birth." Lu Ligan rolled his eyes at her and said, "You thought you could hide away without giving birth, but now, you're here." Wenwen giggled, "It's not because of you. We can rest assured that you can do things." "That's right," Qian nodded. "Thank you, kitty-san," Lao Shenza sang, "and your monthly votes for not seeing a future but only remembering your original intention. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening, everyone." The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1888. The source of Lu Wenqin's crying every night was found, the vaccination certificate was obtained, and the vaccinations that were required were received on time. Lu Wenqin will have no problem going to kindergarten and elementary school in the future. The three of them feel that they have never experienced it in this period of time. It's easy. Wenwen made an exception and allowed Lu Ligan to drink some wine at dinner that day as a celebration. While eating, Wenwen remembered it and asked Lu Ligan, "Other children have to live for 100 days, and we Wenkin can't be less." Lu Ligan scratched his head and said, "But we don't know when she was born. I think, with her mature appearance, the day you picked her up, she might have passed 100 days, and after a while it's time to celebrate your first birthday." At this point, Qian thought about it again and couldn't help scolding, "Do you have such parents? Write a note and tell us how old Wenkin is and what day she was born and will die." Lu Ligan smiled and said, "They left the note, so they are afraid that the handwriting will also be left behind. It is also a crime to abandon a child. They are afraid that the police will find them. If they tell you when you were born, the police will just check all the people in Guangzhou. The hospital, babies born that day, can find them quickly." Qian said oh and stopped. After a while, she said, "It seems that you have the potential to be a criminal. You know it?" After saying that, Qian realized that she had made a mistake. She had just forgotten that Lu Ligan hid with them because he had committed something. Qian secretly looked at Lu Ligan and Wenwen, but fortunately they didn't care at all. Wenwen said, "I don't care, Wenkin is our daughter now, everything is up to us. This weekend, we will celebrate her 100 days at the fish restaurant, and everyone will be lively." Lu Ligan and Qian both agreed. By moving forward from the weekend day, Lu Wenkin's birthday was also calculated. When registering for household registration, her birth date was also available. "There is another question," Lu Ligan said. "What's the problem?" Wenwen and Qian asked. "Whether it is going through the adoption procedures or registering for household registration in the future, there can only be one mother for her. In the household registration book, she can only be with one of you two. Your household registrations are not together, so she can't talk about the two. Follow them all," Lu Ligan said. "This is simple." Qian stretched out her hand, rolled up her sleeves, and said to Wenwen, "Come on, hammer, paper, scissors. Come, just come, whoever is afraid of whom," Wenwen said and rolled up her sleeves. Wait, Lu Ligan shouted, "let's first decide whether the outcome will be determined by 1 round or 2 out of 3 rounds. The two thought for a while and said, "Let's win 2 out of 3 games." Lu Ligan shouted 1, 2, 3 to start, but Wenwen won both times. There was no need for a third round. Qian said, Okay, what you picked up belongs to you. You are the big mom and I am the little mom. This is settled." After dinner and feeding Lu Wenkin, the next most important task for the three of them was to pee her. Lu Ligan and Wenwen Qian said that as long as they removed the pee in advance, she would not wet the bed again. But the problem is, none of them know when Lu Wenkin wants to urinate. Lu Ligan said, "Just do more, do it every day, and let her develop conditioned reflexes." Lu Ligan went to find a candy, peeled off the wrapper and put it on the coffee table. Qian shouted, "Is that so good?" She reached out to get the candy, but Lu Ligan knocked it away and cursed. "If you want to eat, wait a minute. Call me when you go to the bathroom and I'll feed you." Wenwen asked Lu Ligan, "What are you doing?" Lu Ligan said, "Have you ever seen that in the circus, when a lion jumps through a fire ring or a monkey does a somersault, the animal trainer will take out some food from his pocket and feed it to them?" "Go away, we Wenqian are not monkeys, you are," Qian scolded. "You know what the heck, this is called stimulation, you know what Pavlov said," Lu Ligan said nonsensically, "if she urinates, give her a candy to lick, and she will know that this is, reward her and she will urinate well in the future. Damn it, what if you develop a habit? Whenever she eats candy from the top, pee will flow out from the bottom." Qian asked. Lu Ligan was stunned, and Wenwen couldn't help laughing. Lu Ligan scolded, After you become sensible, you still can't control your bowels and urine? This is the way to deal with her when she is still ignorant. Do you understand? Okay, I understand. I'll get her a urinal. Qian ran away and came back after a while, holding Lu Ligan's enamel basin in her hand. Lu Ligan cursed, "This is my basin." "I know," Qian said, "don't you pick it up and smell it every time you change her diaper? Now, you can smell her urine while washing your face." "How happy." Lu Ligan glared at Qian giggled, and Wen said, "This will be used as a urinal for Wenqian. You can use mine later and buy it tomorrow." Everything was ready. The three of them sat on the sofa, watching TV, holding Lu Wenqian in their arms, and helped her to pee. Lu Li was the first to hold her. After holding her for more than 20 minutes, her hands were sore, but Lu Wenqian still made no movement. No, she was also watching TV and eating her fingers. The three people standing by the side kept coaxing and shushing her, but it was no use. Lu Wenqian said she wouldn't pull, so she just didn't pull. Lu Ligan handed her over to Wen, and moved the enamel basin on the ground in front of Wen with his feet. After more than 10 minutes, there was still no movement. It was Qianqian's turn. Lu Wenqian took turns in the hands of the three of them, and the enamel wash basin on the ground followed her, constantly changing places. After more than an hour of rotation, when Lu Wenqian was in Wen's hands, the enamel wash basin finally came. Hearing the sound of, Lu Ligan and Qian hurriedly bent down to take a look. "Pull it!" Qian shouted, and the three people cheered. Qian quickly picked up the piece of candy on the coffee table and stuffed it into Lu Wenqian's mouth. Tonight, since she no longer wets the bed, Lu Wenqian still sleeps with Wen Qian. Just like last night, Lu Ligan laid a disposable tablecloth in the middle of their bed, and then put a bath towel on it. He and Wen Qian said that this way, even if she fell asleep and had a bowel movement, she would not be in a mess. 1 o'clock, no, at 2 o'clock, you should come over and help her do it again. We will sleep like crazy, Wen and Lu Ligan said, and Lu Ligan agreed. Lu Ligan returned to his room and left the door open so that he could hear Lu Wenqian if she cried. Lu Ligan got into bed, turned off the lights, and was about to go to bed when a figure flashed in from outside the door and got into the bed. It was Qian. Lu Ligan chuckled, "What kind of treatment? Today I can finally get close to women." "Go away, Wen asked me to come because you worked hard," Qian scolded. Lu Ligan continued to smile, "Okay, never mind him." When Xiangnan and the others moved from New York to San Francisco to perform, it was time for Fanhua Network to be listed on Nasdaq. Xiahua did not go to San Francisco with Xiangnan and Zhang Xiangbei. As a shareholder of Fanhua Network, he, Lu Yun and Xiaofang stayed in New York. Zhang Chen also came over from China. He has nothing to do with Fanhua Network now. He came as a guest invited by Lu Yun. Lu Yun called Zhang Chen and said, "It doesn't matter if you don't come. I just want to see Fanhua on the day the internet was launched." "You felt regretful." "What do I regret?" Zhang Chen asked, confused. "Seeing the market value of Fanhua Network after its listing, I regret that I was deceived by Xiaofang and transferred my shares," Lu Yun said, and Zhang Chen heard Xiaofang laughing non-stop from behind. Zhang Chen also laughed and said, "I have eliminated the flower network from my brain a long time ago. I have insulated it now. It has nothing to do with me in heaven or on earth. Oh no, it still has something to do with it. It is my tenant. If the rent is not paid, I will ask you for it." "Okay, can you just come and watch the fun as a pure guest?" Lu Yun said. "More than 10 hours of flight. I have a headache." Zhang Chen held the phone and shook his head quickly. "Headache is coming too," Lu Yun said. "Come on, Gugu," Xiaofang also called from the side. "Did you hear that? There is a cure for your headache here," Lu Yun said. and me, brother Zhang Zai, who also called over the phone. By the way, brother Lu will come from Taipei too. Okay, then I'll come over, Zhang Chen said. As soon as Zhang Chen hung up, his phone rang again. It was Lin Shuwen. He picked up the phone. Lin Shuwen said, "Brother, I have already booked your flight for tomorrow." "What ticket?" Zhang Chen asked. "Go to New York," Lin Shuwen said. "What? Are you going to?" Zhang Chen asked. "Yes," Lin Shuwen said. As the chairman of the board of directors of Fanhua Network, Lu Yun is the bell ringer for Fanhua Network's listing on Nasdaq. Each bell ringer can invite 50 friends or company shareholders and partners to enter Nasdaq Studio to participate in the listing ceremony. In recent years, all Chinese companies have gone to Nasdaq. Many entrepreneurs, whether open or closed, regard being listed on Nasdaq as the ultimate goal of their own business and a sign of success. They, whether lobbying investors or facing reporters, Nasdaq is always mentioned. After Fanhua Network is listed, the next ones to be listed are Black Forest, supported by Lu Yun and his company, Lu Bang, and Wang Minsheng, the founders of the Han Dynasty, and LinkedIn Education, supported by Lin Shuwen and Xiao Fang. Therefore, Lu Bang and Lin Shuwen, the founders of the Han Dynasty, also responded to the invitation of Lu Yun and Xiao Fang to go to New York to witness the listing of Fanhua Network. It was also a preview for themselves. The bell-ringing ceremony for Fanhua Network's listing on the Nasdaq was held at 9:30 in the morning. It was said to be ringing the bell, but it actually followed the traditional saying of the New York Stock Exchange. The Nasdaq exchange did not ring the bell to open the market, but it's just pressing an orange button, but ringing a bell sounds cooler than pressing a button. Zhang Chen, Lu Yun, Han Emperor Lu Bang and others all stayed at the Iroquois Hotel near Times Square. At 7 o'clock in the morning, everyone got up and went to the restaurant for breakfast, and then went out to walk together to Times Square. After walking for 6 or 7 minutes, before 8 o'clock, Lu Yun, Xiao Fang and Zhang Chen arrived at the Nasdaq trading building in Times Square. At this time, there were other shareholders who were invited to attend the bell ringing ceremony, and Lu Yun, Xiao Fang, and the other guests invited have also arrived. Although the ceremony starts at 9:30, all guests must arrive before 8:15. Thank you Hu, Dal Tin Soldier, third from top to bottom, flipping through books every day at around 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, 2 fishes, 1 up and 1 down, and Wahaji for the reward. Thank you Hu, on the road to a nation, Pyo Ziofen, book friends 20210630183857013, Lingnan Lone Wolf, Traveler Ye Buzan, Very Kachin Fei, Zipanjiang 1, Bailiang, Lu Sandeo for your monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1889. Everyone has arrived. At the gate, it is inevitable to shake hands and congratulate each other. Among the guests who come, they seem to be the only Chinese. The others are basically from the United States, more precisely, from New York, coming from Wall Street. Lu Yun and Xiao Fang's partners and former colleagues. There are only 2 of them. Xiao Fang specially introduced to Zhang Chen that this is from the Yale University Foundation. The Yale University Foundation has funds in Xiao Fang's youth capital. Today's listing of Fanhua Network on Nasdaq is also related to for their own benefit. They were invited by Xiao Fang and came all the way from New Haven. Because Zhang Xiangbei was still a student at Yale, Xiao Fang felt that it was necessary to introduce Zhang Chen. The Nasdaq trading building looks unremarkable, nothing special. It is most famous and can often be seen on TV news. It is the 4-story high, giant curved screen outside the building. Everyone lined up to pass the security check at the door and entered the building. Once inside, Zhang Chen immediately felt that it was cramped and simple, which simply did not match its reputation as a world-famous stock trading center. Zhang Chen felt that this building was inferior to his M-Zone and Yongcheng Center. Not many companies would be interested in such an office building even if it was placed in Qianzhong New City in Hangzhou, not to mention Shanghai. The front desk of the building is also very small. Except for the frosted glass background wall and the Nasdaq logo on the screen, which indicate the extraordinariness of this place, the decoration style can almost be called shabby. But because this is the front desk of the Nasdaq trading building, everyone still took photos here. The hall was already a bit depressing, and there were screens hanging there. On each screen, there were projections introducing the situation of each company, as well as the latest financial news, which made it dazzling. Looking up, through the glass on the second floor, you can see rows of hosts in the computer room, which is the heart and brain of the entire Nasdaq. Lu Yun, Xiaofang, and Xiaohu have all been here before. Lu Bang and Lin Shuwen, the ancestors of the Han Dynasty, came here for the first time like Zhang Chen. It was obvious that they were surprised by the simplicity of the place. Lin Shuwen kept asking Xiaohu, "Does Nasdaq have other buildings?" Xiaohu said there was no more, and this was the only one. Lin Shuwen sighed and said, "Xiaohu, this place is not as grand as the office area of your Fubon Financial Holdings." Lu Yun and Xiaofang both laughed. Lu Yun asked, "Are you disappointed? It's not just here. You just go to Wall Street and look at the buildings one by one. They are almost all like this. How can it be compared with Lujia's Y?" Lu Bang, the emperor of the Han Dynasty, said, "I originally thought that these places should be magnificent. It doesn't matter, just like an unattractive woman can be called a good-tempered woman." Zhang Chen said. "What about here, brother?" Lin Shuwen interrupted him and asked. Zhang Chen said, "It can be said to be concise." Everyone laughed. The staff came over, confirmed their identities, and led them all to a corner. The background wall in this corner was dark green. More than 1 meter away from the background wall, there was a black table with a digital camera on it. There were cameras and 2 computers, and 2 covered photography lights stood on both sides of the table. Xiaofang told them that everyone should take pictures in front of this background wall. Later, the staff will combine your silhouette with the Nasdaq building to make a souvenir book. It will be given to you when you leave, and everyone can take it back as a souvenir. Everyone lined up and took pictures one by one. Lu Yun said to everyone, "Take beautiful photos. Your photos will also appear on the big screen outside the building later." She then repeated the same words to the Americans in English with a smile. When Lu Yun said this, everyone became serious. Appearing on the big curved screen was no joke. So many people in Times Square were watching. It was broadcast through major TV stations and could be seen all over the world. See it? Before 9 o'clock, everyone had finished taking photos, and the staff guided them into the studio on the first floor. Zhang Chen saw that this was really a studio, and the area was about the same as the news studio of an ordinary TV station. Not even the lobby. Zhang Chen did not expect that the ceremony would be held in such a small place. No wonder only 50 people could enter. Even if 50 people arrived on the stage, it would still be crowded. The arc-shaped studio with a height of more than 10 centimeters has a dark purple carpet on the ground and a huge arc-shaped background wall in the background. This entire background wall is composed of 4 parts, with the top one being black. On the back of the screen were big blue letters Nasdaq, and underneath was a long and narrow curved screen that scrolled through various indices. Below is a huge video wall, which is composed of small squares. After the market opens, each small square plays a company's logo and related indices. These small squares can be combined as needed. Sometimes a few or dozens of pieces can be assembled into a large screen. The bottom part of the background wall is fixed and also has a black background, with a row of blue letters Nasdaq on it. Above the stage, on the right side is a stage similar to that used by newscasters to place their speech notes. Opposite the arc-shaped studio is a row of cameras. Unlike ordinary TV studios, this studio is not completely enclosed. Behind the row of cameras is floor-to-ceiling glass, and outside the glass is Times Square. From here, you can see the pedestrians coming and going in the square, as well as the men and women sitting and resting not far away. Opposite the square is the Reuters U.S. headquarters building. There are several large screens hanging outside the building, showing advertisements for cosmetics. A TV program is being recorded inside. If it had been placed in some place, the outside of the glass would be full of curious people, putting their faces against the glass and looking in. But here, everyone seems to be used to all this. One person, he didn't lie there and look around. If there is such a curious person, the security guard will ask him to come inside and have a look. This studio, even when the program is being recorded, allows outsiders to come in and visit, but it is separated from the studio by a circle of isolation. The stage is 8 or 9 meters away. Before 9 o'clock, Lu Yun and Xiaofang were invited to the stage. At this time, the TV wall behind formed the logo of Fanhua Network. At 9 o'clock, Lu Yun and Xiaofang pressed the orange button on the stage together. Button, Nasdaq is open. The two people immediately left there, walked to the audience, and returned to Zhang Chen and the others. Then 3 announcers came on stage, each occupying the left, middle and right positions of the huge arc-shaped video wall. The 3 people began to take turns broadcasting today's major economic news and analysis of Nasdaq-related companies. At this time, the director can switch scenes from time to time. The announcer he switches to is talking endlessly, and the other 2 people are outside the camera, drinking water, reading scripts, or looking around boredly. While the announcer was broadcasting the program, Lu Yun and Xiaofang were staring at the small square of Fanhua Network on the TV wall, with joy on their faces. Other shareholders and guests were also whispering. They saw that Fanhua Network stock had been rising since the market opened. The long box below was always green. Only 10 minutes after the market opened, it already showed at 3.5%. The Dell next door was red -1.3%. Although the apple above is also green, it is only at 0.4%. Lu Yun leaned close to Zhang Chen's ear, smiled and said to him, "Our stock price keeps turning green, why isn't your face turning green?" Zhang Chen smiled. Not only was his face not green, but it was a little red. At 9:25, the live news program temporarily ended, and the entire TV wall turned into Fanhua Network. This indicated that the listing ceremony of Fanhua Network had begun. At this time, the listing ceremony began. This ceremony, it is completely performance in nature, and it is also a staged shot for the subsequent news broadcast. On the studio stage, the staff raised a slightly larger stage. First, the head of the Nasdaq market department came to the stage to speak. Zhang Chen could not understand even a word of his speech in English, but he knew what he was talking about. Is nothing more than a welcome to Fanhua Network to be listed on Nasdaq. Then Lu Yun and Xiaofang, the 2 largest shareholders of Fanhua Network, came on stage. They smiled and delivered speeches in English. They were just thanking this and that. They gestured with their hands from time to time. Those in the audience who were thanked smiled and nodded. Then they invited all the guests to come on stage. Everyone crowded onto the stage, waving their hands and cheering, and confetti fell from the sky. Lu Yun and Xiaofang each stretched out a hand, folded it together, and then pretended to press the orange button. The ceremony ended in less than 10 minutes. "That's it?" Zhang Chen asked. "Okay, what else do you want?" Xiaofang asked. "I took a plane for more than 10 hours to come here, and I have to fly for more than 10 hours to go back, just for these 10 minutes, Zhang Chen said, and everyone laughed. Lu Yun said, "Do you know how many people have worked hard for these 10 minutes but never finished it?" "Yes, that's right," Lu Yun said. "It well, Lu Bang, the emperor of the Han dynasty, said. Everyone walked outside together. At this time, their commemorative books had been made. It was really efficient. Everyone walked out of the building with the commemorative books and the gifts. Look, Lin Shuwen pointed at the TV screen outside the Reuters headquarters building opposite and shouted. Everyone looked over and saw that the news about Fanhua Network's listing on Nasdaq was being played on the screen. The picture on the screen was actually what they had just staged. The speed of producing the program was too fast. Here too. Xiahua walked out a few steps and pointed to the huge curved screen outside the Nasdaq building. He said to them, everyone quickly walked over, turned around and looked up. It's true, Fanhua Network is playing on Nasdaq today. News of Doc's listing. After a while, a half-length photo of Lu Yun appeared on the screen, and then the photos they took in the corner were the same as those in the souvenir album in their hands. What's the stock price now? Lu Bang, the emperor of the Han dynasty, asked. Lu Yun said, 29.3. Fanhua Network's opening price today was $21.5. As of 9:40, its total market value has almost reached more than $3.5 billion and more than 25 billion yuan. Thank you Zibei Kangsheng Edison, Sand-Dust Mood, Why Can't I Change My Name, Piao Lingyi Mayfly, Hydrogen Oxide Disinfection Knowledge Bureau, HGX 999 Little Stupid Niu 999, and Book Friends 202011091113519223 for their monthly votes. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1890. Xiongnan and the others finished their performance in the United States and flew from San Francisco to Tokyo. Xiahua did not follow them to Japan, but he sent Mang Chao and the general manager of Fuban Financial Holdings Cultural Foundation to go with Xiongnan and the others. Mang Chao is already familiar with the people in the troupe, and having him by his side to help with arrangements and promotions can reassure Xiahua. Not to mention that when they arrive in Tokyo, their Fuban Bank Tokyo branch has already arranged the performance in advance, and the troupe's trip in Tokyo. Minami's performance was held at the Tokyo New National Theatre in Honmachi, Shibuyaku, Tokyo. The Tokyo New National Theatre is one of the most famous performance venues in Japan. It is right next to Tokyo Opera City. Together, they form the urban area of Tokyo, an important cultural and artistic center. The New National Theatre in Tokyo has 3 performance venues, the Opera Theatre, the Chinese Theatre and the Small Theatre. Xiangnan's performances are held in the Small Theatre. When everyone arrived and took a look, they found that this small theatre was about the same size as their own theatre in Yongcheng Center. Although there were only more than 400 seats, which was more than 100 less than theirs, because their seats were arranged sparsely and they were all reserved. With disabled access and special seats, the entire area is similar to the size of their theater. Looking at the size of the stage, it was almost the same, and everyone felt relieved. This saves a lot of worry when walking on stage, and it can be done just like the small theater in the center of Yongcheng. Dramatic performances, whether you are entering or exiting, including your position on the stage, all change according to the size of the stage. For example, for a large stage, you need to walk more than 10 steps to get on and off the stage, while for a small stage, 7 or 8 steps will be enough. When the stage steps change, the speed of your singing and reciting the lyrics will also change. It cannot be said that you have finished singing, and you have not yet reached the position you should be at. Therefore, every time you go to a new place and see a new stage, it is very important to be familiar with the stage and walk on the stage. Experienced actors will also find a frame of reference on the scene so that they are less likely to make mistakes. After the actors know the stage well, the rehearsal has just started, otherwise the rehearsal will be a mess. On the plane from San Francisco to Tokyo, Mang Chao told Xiang Nan and the others that because the new National Theatre in Tokyo was very busy with performances, their performance was scheduled for the evening. In the same small theater, there were formal performances by other performance groups in the afternoon. The performance, so all rehearsals, must be held in the morning, and there are strict time limits. The rehearsal time for them is from 6 to 9 a.m. Before 9 o'clock arrives, there will be other groups waiting below to prepare for activities. When 9 o'clock arrives, even if they are only halfway through the rehearsal, they have no choice but to give up the stage. Moreover, they were in Tokyo for a total of 7 days this time. The arrangements of the Tokyo branch can be said to be very considerate but also very compact. They arrived in Tokyo in the evening and stayed at a hotel near the new National Theatre. After a night's rest, they probably didn't even have time to get over the jet lag. They had to rehearse at 6 a.m. the next morning and start performing that night for 3 consecutive days. The next 3 days are just for fun in Japan without any performance tasks. Then, fly from Tokyo to Taipei. After all, they only had half the morning for the formal rehearsal and performance of the next day. Xiang Nan was still worried that these 3 hours would be enough time for everyone to get familiar with the stage. "Can we go early and go to the stage at 4 in the morning?" Xiang Nan asked. "In the worst case, everyone can go to bed early tonight." "No, the Japanese are very rigid. If they say 6 o'clock, it is 6 o'clock, even if it's early," Mang Chao and Xiang Nan said. "There is no other way but to bite the bullet and bear it down," Xiang Nan thought to himself. But when we arrived at the theater, we saw that the layout and stage size were completely similar to their own theater in Yongcheng Center. Everyone felt relieved and felt that there would be no problem. On the day of the performance, after dinner, Xiang Nan and the others had just arrived at the theater, and before they started putting on makeup, Mang Chao called Xiang Nan and Ding Yusong over. The small theater where they performed was on the underground floor. The two of them followed Mang Chao to the first floor. On the audience rest platform going up the steps, they saw a dozen people waiting here. Mang Chao introduced them to them, and they found out that these people were from the Tokyo Hangcheng Association. There are many Hangcheng people in Japan, and Yongcheng is Hangcheng. They told Xiang Nan that in the past 3 days, they were from the same hometown every day. Yes, there will be 70 or 80 people coming to watch their performances. Xiang Nan and Ding Yusong quickly said thank you. There was a middle-aged couple standing there. The people standing next to them should be their children. After everyone else had finished talking, the man said to Xiang Nan, "My surname is Yu, and my name is Yuqiwadong. This is my wife, whose name is Yuqiwadong Suxiajuan. These are my daughter and son." Xiang Nan said hello to them one by one. Suxiajuan smiled and said to them, "We are both from Yongcheng." Ah, Xiang Nan and Ding Yusong were both surprised. What a coincidence. Suxiajuan's eyes turned a little red and she said, "We have been in Japan for more than 20 years. Today is the first time we heard that a theater troupe from Yongcheng is coming to Japan to perform, so our whole family must come and watch. Can I give you a hug?" After Xiang Nan said yes, she stretched out her arms and hugged Suxiajuan. After the hug, Suxiajuan asked her daughter and son to call them uncle and aunt. The girl and boy called uncle and aunt in half-baked Mandarin. Yuqiwadong and Xiang Nan said, "There is no way. We have 2 children who were born in Japan and we don't have time to teach them. They can speak a little Chinese, but they can't write a word except their own names wrote." Xiang Nan asked them, "Do you still go back to Yongcheng often?" The two looked at each other and shook their heads. Yuqiwadong said, "I haven't been back for more than 10 years. When the old man at home was here, we would go back every year. Now that the old man is gone, when I go back, I feel like a guest. Every day I go back. If you know where to go, you won't go back. If you have the chance, you should go back and take a look. Yongcheng has completely changed now. I believe that if you go back again, I'm afraid you won't know each other. Xiangnan said. By the way, we will hold a Yongcheng Summer International Street Theater Festival. If you have time, you can take your little brothers and sisters back to see it. When the two children heard what Xiangnan said, their eyes lit up. Yu Qiudong and Su Xiajuan hesitated, not knowing how to answer. Xiangnan and Su Xiajuan said, if you are willing, you can give me your address, and we will send you an invitation letter to welcome your family back to Yongcheng as guests of the drama festival. When Yu Qiudong heard this, he quickly said thank you, thank you. Yu Qiudong took out his business card from his pocket and handed it to Xiangnan. It turned out that he was a professor at Tokyo Institute of Technology. Xiangnan also took out his business card and handed it to Yu Qiudong and Su Xiajuan. Su Xiajuan shouted softly. It turns out to be Captain Feng, so young. It's still our starring role. You can see her on the stage later, Ding Yusong said. I just saw that Captain Feng is young and promising, and he has won the Huabiao Award and the Plum Blossom Award. It's really not easy. Yu Qiudong shook the introduction booklet in his hand and said, you also won the Plum Blossom Award's Best Composition, right, Deputy Commander Ding? Xiangnan and Ding Yusong, quickly say thank you, thank you. Someone came over and asked Xiangnan and Ding Yusong to take a photo with them. Xiangnan and Ding Yusong fulfilled their requests one by one. They also took a photo with Yu Qiudong's family and signed the introduction brochure for everyone. Xiangnan was going to put on makeup. The two of them said goodbye to Yu Qiudong and his family, as well as so many fellow Hangzhou residents, and went to the basement. Because it was in a small theater, what they performed were all excerpts of the opera. It can be said that they took out the best parts of Wu opera and presented it to everyone. The entire stage design is gorgeous and gorgeous, the actors' singing is beautiful, and the performances are detailed and vivid. The martial arts students, including Xiangnan's somersaults, are also dazzling. Those audiences in Hangzhou have all seen Wu opera before, but they have not. I have watched Wu opera, and Wu opera is mainly based on literary opera. I didn't expect this Wu opera to be so lively and exciting, and everyone said it was enjoyable. Xiangnan led Yin Tao and the others to the curtain call again and again, but when they walked to the backstage, the curtain fell halfway, and the applause from below was still unrelenting. The curtain could only be pulled up. There was no other way, so Xiangnan could only take everyone back. One more curtain call, and after more than a dozen curtain calls, the curtain finally came down. When everyone was taking off their makeup backstage, they were laughing and joking. They also felt that today's performance was very enjoyable, as if they had returned to Yongcheng's home stadium. The cheers below are all in Mandarin, and some people also use Hangzhou dialect. Boss, someone is looking for you. Xiangnan was sitting there taking off her makeup. Ding Yusong walked to the door of the dressing room and called to her. Xiangnan thought it was probably Yu Qiudong and his wife. She quickly stood up and said, okay, come right away. Xiangnan turned around, was stunned for a moment, and then shouted, Aunt Hungmei. The person standing at the door and looking at her with a smile was none other than He Hungmei. Xiangnan quickly ran over and hugged her. Aunt Hungmei, why are you here? Xiangnan asked. He Hungmei smiled and said, I saw in the newspaper that you were performing here, Yongcheng Wu troupe, and I thought, Nanan must be here, so I came over. Are you in the audience in front of me? Aunt Hungmei, why didn't I see you? Xiangnan shouted. When Xiangnan performed on stage, she paid close attention to the expressions of the audience. The theater was not big, so how could she not see such a familiar figure like He Hungmei just now? Fool, there are hundreds of spectators below, how could you possibly see it? He Hongmei told Xiang Nan that what she didn't tell Xiang Nan was that she was in the audience in front of her, wearing glasses and a flowered scarf on her face. It was not for any other reason than that she was sitting there and looking at Xiang Nan. Every performance, I don't know how many tears I shed. Let's go, Nan Nan, Auntie will watch you remove your makeup, He Hongmei and Xiang Nan said. After Xiang Nan said yes, she smiled happily, took He Hongmei's hand, and led her into the dressing room to her seat. Xiang Nan sat down and He Hongmei said, Auntie, help you unload it? Okay, thank you Aunt Hongmei. Xiang Nan smiled playfully and raised his head towards He Hongmei. He Hongmei used makeup remover cotton and makeup remover to carefully help Xiang Nan remove the paint on her face. He Hongmei has been in various production crews all year round, and she knows how to remove heavy makeup. Only halfway through unloading, Xiang Nan refused. She refused to face He Hongmei. Instead, she turned around and leaned on He Hongmei like she did when she was a child. In this way, He Hongmei could only stand behind Xiang Nan and help her in the mirror. Remove makeup to the south. You are so old, but you are still so naughty, He Hongmei said. Xiang Nan giggled. Thank you for the reward of 2 fishes. Thank you Lin Bulet in Hungary, Huandian Electrical and Mechanical, Wahaji, don't see a future but remember your original intention, on the road to a nation, Zonkai 727 for your monthly pass. Thanks for all the votes and reading. I wish you all good health. The Pentium Era, South to North. Author, Mei Shi Niang. Chapter 1891. Everyone else in the dressing room had taken off their makeup, changed their clothes and left. Xiang Nan and He Hongmei were the last 2 people. They walked outside and saw everyone standing in the corridor waiting for them. Mang Chao and Xiang Nan said, Captain Feng, we are going to have supper upstairs at the opera tower next door. Let your aunt go with us. Xiang Nan looked at He Hongmei. He Hongmei shook her head slightly and said to Xiang Nan, you go ahead. Go back to the hotel early after dinner. We have to get up early to rehearse tomorrow morning. I'll go for a walk with my aunt. Yin Tao took off Xiang Nan's backpack from Xiang Nan's shoulder. Inside were Xiang Nan's performance costumes and cosmetics for the performance. The dressing room was shared with the group that performed in the afternoon. They can only take their own things with them. Yin Tao and Xiang Nan said. We'll help you take it back. Say thank you to Nan. Mang Chao took the others away with him. He Hongmei smiled and said to Xiang Nan, Nan, I can see that they respect you as the leader. Xiang Nan smiled and said, we get along very well. We are all about the same age. We usually play together and laugh. He Hongmei nodded. The 2 held hands and walked out of the theater door. It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. In the Tokyo night at the end of May, the night breeze was slightly cool, blowing on people's faces, making people feel relaxed and happy. Next to the Tokyo New National Theatre is a small park. The 2 people walked through the park and walked to the street opposite. At this time, there were only a few people coming and going on the street. This road was not, there were almost no vehicles on the main road, and the 2 people were walking aimlessly on the street. He Hongmei thought about it and said, Nanan, there is an izakaya nearby. The food is pretty good. Can Auntie invite you to have a drink? Say yes to Xiangnan. Aunt Hongmei, are you familiar with this area? He Hongmei nodded and said yes, I am familiar with the New National Theatre, Opera City and Imperial Theatre. Sometimes I help design costumes for the theatre troupes that perform here, and I come over to watch their performances. There is also a gallery over there at the Opera City, and there will be an exhibition, and I will come and take a look. The 2 of them were talking and walking, and soon they arrived at the izakaya that He Hongmei was talking about. Pushing the door and going in, there are more than a dozen tables inside, half of which are still occupied. 2 of them only have 1 person sitting there, staring at the table and wine in front of him with a sad face, as if thinking about life. There is also a table where people sit. There were 6 or 7 people who were in high spirits. It looked like they had just gotten off work from some company and were gathering here. He Hongmei and Xiang Nan chose a table in the corner and sat down. He Hongmei ordered apricot wine for Xiang Nan and Daiganzhou for herself. She said to Xiang Nan, "The alcohol content of this wine is very low, it doesn't matter if you drink a little. Say yes to the south." Then, He Hongmei ordered fried chicken nuggets, grilled cheese chicken, grilled cod with soy sauce, cold tofu, wasabi octopus, and a plate of edamame. There were 6 or 7 people at that table. They paid attention to them as soon as they came in. At this time, someone yelled at them. Xiongnan couldn't understand what he was yelling. He Hongmei said, "Ignore them, they are asking us to come over and eat together." After a while, a guy actually staggered towards them and stood beside their table and said something. He Hongmei looked at him and replied a few words in Japanese. The man suddenly became stunned. After a while, they walked back, raising their hands as they walked, and kept shaking them back. They went back to sit down and the group of people never harassed them again. Xiang Nan looked amused, and she asked, "Aunt Hongmei, what did you say to him, so powerful that he didn't dare to speak after just a few words?" He Hongmei also laughed and said, "It's not a nice thing to say. Don't imitate it. Come on, let's drink." The two clinked their glasses and took a sip of the wine. He Hongmei asked, "Does it taste good?" Xiang Nan said it didn't taste very good, it smelled like rotten fruit. "Come on, have a taste of this." He Hongmei picked up her cup and handed it over to Xiongnan, taking a sip. He Hongmei quickly asked, "How is it?" "It still doesn't taste good. It's not as good as a rotten fruit like me," Xiang Nan said. He Hongmei stared at her and cursed, "Why are you so difficult to take care of? Be careful of getting beaten by the boss. You said his wine doesn't taste good." Xiang Nan also glared at He Hongmei, and both of them laughed, a little wildly. Everyone else in the tavern looked at them. Even the two guys who were thinking about life with sad faces turned their heads and looked at Nan. He Hongmei made a face, and the two of them lowered their voices. "How is your mother? How are everyone else at home, in Hangchang?" He Hongmei asked. Xiang Nan nodded and said, "Everything is fine." "And Hongmei, what about you?" "Me? I'm fine too. I'm here alone, with no worries. I can go wherever I want." He Hongmei smiled. Alone, Xiang Nan was startled. She wanted to hold it in, but she couldn't hold it in any longer. She asked, "Aunt Hongmei, how can you be alone?" "You're not. You mean Harada Shino? We divorced 2 years ago," He Hongmei said. That, who, is he not good to you?" Xiang Nan asked. "No, it's because we don't get used to each other." He Hongmei smiled and continued, "He is, it should be said, not a bad person among Japanese men, but after all, they grew up in different environments. Over time, each this kind of conflict arises, so it would be better to separate to save trouble." He Hongmei saw Xiang Nan looking at her with a confused look. He Hongmei pointed to the 6 or 7 people at the table and said to Xiang Nan, "For example, have you seen that this is the norm for Japanese men? Every day after get off work, they must go out to drink with their colleagues. If they don't come out, they will be looked down upon by their colleagues. Japanese people are very serious when they go to work, and they don't even say a word of gossip. No, after work, in the pub, everyone's true face is revealed, and if you don't fit in, you will be isolated." Xiang Nan nodded and He Hongmei continued. "When you go home drunk like this, Japanese women still have to bend their knees and bend their backs to greet you, saying with a smile that you are back. Huh, how can I do this? It's better if I don't kick you out." Xiang Nan chuckled as he listened, and He Hongmei also laughed. She said, "What I'm talking about is just one example. There are too many like this, and it's annoying. In the end, this is the result. I finally understand. What we Chinese say is a good match, it also applies here. Two cultural backgrounds. If you don't want to wrong yourself, if you are different people, you can't be together. And Hung Mei, have you ever thought about returning to China? Xiang Nan said. Go back to China? How? I am already a Japanese now. If I go back, I will still be a foreigner, Hung Mei said. I went back once, but after going back once, I don't want to go back again. Why? Xiang Nan asked. Now the country is doing very well, like Wenwen and Qian, they are doing very well now. I know, it's not because of that that I don't go back, but, how should I put it, since I came out, everyone in the country has become accustomed to my absence. I no longer have a place among them. Hung Mei took a sip of wine and said in a deep tone. I went back to Chongqing and met with several classmates. At the beginning, everyone was very enthusiastic about me, but then they talked about themselves, their husbands' promotions, their children's schooling and extracurricular tutoring, and other things. I couldn't get into all the other topics they talked about. I felt like I was sitting there completely redundant. If I tell them about my life in Japan, they won't be able to get involved. At most, they will just be bystanders and listen to me telling stories. Think about it, what's the point of such a party? I'm afraid of it after going to it once. Yes, this is called talking without speculation. There is no common language between us. Not to mention them, it's the same with my family. Everyone has their own focus in life. I have long been no longer the focus in their lives. My mother dances with a bunch of old women every day. For her, where she will participate in the competition today and what ranking she will get are much more important than me. As for my father, even on the day I came home, after dinner, he would immediately run out to play mahjong. My sister and her children couldn't even worry about it. She talked about it all day long and thought about it in her heart. It's them that I'm thinking about. I say this not to say how bad they were to me, but because I walked away and removed myself from their lives. Now, each of them has their own life and is no longer there. Maybe there is space for me again, but when I go back, I feel like I am really a foreigner, so why should I go back? While Hung Mei was talking, Xiang Nan thought of what Yu Qiudong had told her before, saying that after all the elderly at home were gone, she would feel like a guest when she went back. No wonder I said earlier that they were so hesitant when I asked them to go back to Yongcheng to take a look. It turns out that they must have the same feeling as Aunt Hung Mei. They felt that there was no room for them to exist in the place they were familiar with. No, Aunt Hung Mei, then you can go back to Hangzhou. We will welcome you back to Hangzhou. You will always be my Aunt Hung Mei, Xiang Nan and Hung Mei said. Hung Mei lowered her head and was silent for a while. When she raised her head, she smiled and said, Silly boy, thank you aunt, thank you for what you said to me, Nan Nan, but what do you think Aunt can do now that she's back to Yongcheng? Does your troop need a full-time costumer? But, Nan Nan, don't worry, I will definitely go back when you and Bai Bei get married, Auntie promises you. Ah, Xiangnan was taken aback, and she stammered, No, Aunt Hung Mei, what's wrong with you? How do you know about Zhang Xiangbei and me? Wenwen told me, Hung Mei said. But, Wenwen doesn't know either, Xiang Nan said anxiously. Hung Mei chuckled and said. You, Nanan, you are such a stupid boy. Do you think that if you don't tell others about the matter between you and Bai Bei, others won't know about it? You just didn't tell others, and everyone else knows about it? Why can't everyone pretend that they know it, including your grandparents, don't they care if you have a boyfriend now that you are so old? Xiang Nan was stunned, and Hung Mei said, Actually, they all know it. They don't say it because they think it's good and they don't think you two need to worry about it. Do you understand? Xiang Nan chuckled, and He Hungmei raised her cup and said, "Come on, Nan Nan, let's touch it for this." Xiang Nan raised his cup and clinked it with He Hungmei. Thank you book friend 201707121653544432 for the reward. Thank you for your monthly votes from Luo Luo Wu Chen Yi Hua Yi Shi Shi, Professional Wear Season, Kitty Sun, and Hu Hu. Thanks for all the votes and reading. Have a good evening everyone.